my fandom friends! Today we are going to be talking about a panel that was held at Anime Expo, the largest convention for anime in America. This of course is going to be discussing the Demon Slayer panel that was held on July 4th, 2025, which was only a couple days ago from when I'm recording this. Yes, I went to it, and yes, I'm about to gush about the entire experience. So if you want to know about what happened at that panel, if you were unable to attend, or if you were unable to get into the theater, yes, lots of people were turned away, you are in the right spot because we are going to be talking about all things Demon Slayer panel at Anime Expo. So as a recap, this panel was actually held in the main events Peacock Theater at Anime Expo instead of the main events place that it has been in the past. And all props to Anime Expo for positively growing because I feel like the Peacock Theater was a much better place to hold big, huge panels like this. They were able to get a bigger audience, allow more people to get in. I want to say that the room held over 7,000 people, which is a lot of people. Yeah, just a very overall positive feeling for this growth that Anime Expo has had, holding these really big events in this new Peacock Theater that they have access to. In years past, the Demon Slayer panel has been held very differently, where they have voice actors from Japan or sometimes the English dub come on, answer a lot of questions, maybe about what's going on in the Demon Slayer world at that current time. This year, however, was very different. Yes, they had two different voice actors, the voice of Tanjiro in the Japanese sub, Natsuki Hanai, as well as the English dub for Zenitsu, Alex Lee, which he actually ended up being a very special guest. Yes, this panel had these voice actors present, however, it wasn't a Q&A like it normally is. This panel was dedicated more to being an orchestra for kind of what happens in season 1 of Demon Slayer, then loosely leading up to where we're at currently in the story. Also, reminder, if you're not familiar with panels at Anime Expo or any sort of panel or interview from Japanese people, typically pictures and videos are not allowed during these situations, so know that is why you are not finding any kind of material from this panel online other than potentially talk videos like this one. So that is what we are going to be talking about, breaking down this whole orchestra experience. Was there new content announced? Was there a promotional reel? You'll have to stick to the end to find out. So let's get into this. So it started off with, of course, the orchestra on the stage. They had the wind instruments, the string instruments. They even had a choir, which was honestly some of my favorite pieces of this whole experience. And of course, we start off with basically the history of demons and humans, their correlation, why they don't like each other, that whole history from the original source of Demon Slayer. Dialogue was shown and heard for all of this in Japanese, but from that point on, there was no really dialogue unless it was the voice actors coming in and speaking their lines. For the most part, this entire experience was just instrumental, with images on the big screens kind of depicting what was going on, with the music kind of overlapping in the background. After all of that background, we start off with episodes 1 and 2, when Tanjiro is finding his dead family, carrying Nezuko, and fighting Giyu to protect her. We probably got the most continuous content from those first 2 episodes, and while all of that was going on these screens, we actually had Hanai-san come out and start voicing all of the lines. Now, at first, the audience did not know it was him or something because there was no cheering. It was just silent. I was looking around thinking, what the heck is going on? Because this is literally Tanjiro right in front of us. But once he started talking, people were like, oh shoot, that is the Japanese voice of Tanjiro. He had on Tanjiro's Hayori, and of course, as he always does, played a brilliant Tanjiro during his live reading performance of this character that he loves so dearly. I've talked about this before so many times. I have seen Hanai-san in person doing different panels and interviews. I think 4 other times leading up to this time. I think this was my 5th or 6th time seeing him, and every time he just brings so much power and emotion to the stage, so I just wanted to give him a quick shout out for that because he's just such a super fan of Tanjiro, and you can just tell that he loves playing this character with all of his heart. He truly puts in his all. So of course, while all of these scenes are playing out, the orchestra is just going to town with their beautiful pieces of art which is their voices and their music. I wanted to talk about the orchestra because they truly were the highlight of this experience and really brought out just so much emotion, at least for me. I can't talk for other people, but hearing them play like actually brought me to tears several times. They were incredible, and this was my first time truly hearing like an orchestra-ish version of Demon Slayer. They weren't just playing the original music and sounds from the animation, but they were adding to it in a very like Japanese-ish style. I know this is all Japanese originated and all of that good stuff, but I feel like they added so much more that isn't really highlighted in the main story of Demon Slayer. Especially, again, the choir was magnificent, just so powerful and really the base of all of the music, in my opinion. All of their music really helped aid all of these scenes in a really beautiful way, again, bringing out more emotion than I was expecting. And I think coming from an editor standpoint, from being someone who's taken classes on editing, then taken it upon myself to learn editing myself and make these videos, I feel like I had a greater appreciation for the whole storytelling that was going through with the images they were showing on the screen and the orchestra all paired together. There's just something so beautiful about showing a story portrayed on a screen with different transitions and clips that pull at your heart already, but then pairing that with a beautiful orchestra, it just got me so emotional, and it's just such a powerful thing. Again, for a person like me who has made videos like that and expressed my love for this for so many years. After, of course, getting through the first couple of episodes, everything that is involved with Tanjiro and Gyu's fight over protecting Nezuko, we actually skipped forward a couple episodes, just kind of highlighting all of the main scenes that were portrayed in Tanjiro's story up until we meet Zenitsu. But before we get to Zenitsu, I'm going to talk about all of these beautiful scenes really quick. Basically, it would just transition from all of these tiny arcs that we have in season 1. Of course, we have the Swamp Demon arc, we have the Enchanted Blood arc with Tamayo and Yushiro, up until we get to Zenitsu. And all of these scenes really portrayed really wonderfully with the orchestra playing in the background. The way that the orchestra was playing was very much in different parts, kind of in correlation with the arcs from Demon Slayer. It wasn't just one continuous thing. Honestly, one of my favorite parts was this whole scene of skipping through different tiny arcs, and we got a special emphasis on the Swamp Demon episode where Tanjiro is leaving Kazumi, I think that's his name, and Kazumi is crying, he's devastated for very obvious reasons. That arc is very sad, and it's Tanjiro telling him that no, you have to keep going, you have to keep fighting for what you love, and all of that scene was really peaceful. Again, there was no audio for any of that because at that point Hane-san had exited the stage. However, just the instrumental paired with the visuals on screen was just so beautiful and peaceful to me. We then cut to a very comedic kind of mid-section of the performance where we got a Taisho secret. Now, we weren't actually getting a Taisho secret, but the orchestra was playing the iconic Taisho era secret music, as well as we had a Tanjiro and a Nezuko come onto the stage in kind of those chibi-ish outfits that you've probably seen everywhere. They were just running around, waving, doing all the cute stuff that these siblings always do. And it was just so cute. After that, of course, we get to the introduction of Zenitsu, and we have Alex Lee come running out onto the stage. He is screaming, he is crying, his hands are up, he's wearing Zenitsu's Hayori. He is just going wild, and for a split second, I totally just did not think about Alex Lee because I'm a sub watcher, and I was like, oh my gosh, is this Shimono-san? The Japanese voice of Zenitsu, and I was like losing my mind, and then I was like, no, he was not announced. But I love Alex Lee as well. He is a phenomenal voice actor from what I've seen and heard, and his performance on the stage as Zenitsu was literally incredible. Also, some of my favorite things that I saw on this stage was this interaction between him, him voicing Zenitsu in English, and then Hane-san coming out and playing Tanjiro in Japanese. And they basically acted out the interaction between Tanjiro and Zenitsu meeting for the first time. So of course, when they meet on that road by all of the farmland, and Zenitsu's just going crazy over this girl. Tanjiro's trying to get him away from her. The girl is just trying to leave. It's a very chaotic scene, and they portrayed it so well, had the audience completely just bawling laughing. They even paused to let Hane-san do the face that Tanjiro makes, the like iconic look of confusion and shock that Tanjiro had when he's just listening to Zenitsu just scream his head off. So literally everything was perfection. I also just loved the balance of Japanese and English going back and forth, really aiding to both sub and dub watchers in a really beautiful, kind of unifying way. After all of these scenes, we of course skip forward again to Kyogai, the Suzumi Mansion arc, where we get to meet Inosuke. There was no voice actor to portray Inosuke, unfortunately. However, he still was given a little chunk of the orchestra, which was very nice for, of course, our amazing Inosuke. And then we cut to my favorite arc in Demon Slayer. This is when I lost my mind. The spider arc, Mount Natagumo arc. Now, I may be biased, but this part absolutely slapped. Hearing Rui's theme and the spider's theme was just so like eerie and magical. I would like close my eyes and just picture myself in that spider forest as the orchestra was playing, and it was just so on point and beautiful. Not anything like I've heard before, of course, for this very unique arc in Demon Slayer. I was definitely just right off the bat crying and shaking and screaming when I saw Rui on this big screen. If you don't know by now, I am Rui's #1 fan, if you couldn't tell by my shrine of Rui behind me. I have seen Uchiyama from the first row at a panel at Anime Expo 2 years ago. That's the Japanese voice of Rui, if you didn't know. I'm absolutely obsessed with him and Rui, so I was just absolutely losing my mind. I was the sole person screaming for Rui when it was completely silent. I was like, Rui! Literally just crying. The man next to me was literally so out of it. He was literally sleeping throughout the entirety of this panel. I was like, dude, what are you doing here? You are sitting next to the wrong fangirl right now. But of course, Hane-san had to come on the stage for the third and final time for this reenactment of everything. And of course, we get the iconic scenes from Hinokami in season 1, where Tanjiro is facing off Rui. Now, they did this whole fight, which of course is one of the most iconic scenes in Demon Slayer, at least in my opinion. That's what got me into Demon Slayer. So all of this was very special to me. I was definitely crying, trying not to mess up my makeup. It was just so beautiful. The orchestra did an amazing, incredible job. Of course, again, paired with all of the visuals on the screen. Something I thought was a little weird is that they cut the scenes right when Tanjiro is beheading Rui, which he didn't really behead him. Rui did that to himself. But it made it appear as though Tanjiro killed him, when obviously we know that Tanjiro would have been killed by Rui. Gyu's the one who did that final blow. They didn't really show any of that, but that's more of like Rui's story, whereas like this whole orchestra was covering Tanjiro's story. So it made sense. It was just a little bit off, but then after the whole spider arc and me dying over all of that, we cut to a very quick scene of the finale of season 1, which just covers all of the Hashira. Before getting to the Hashira, which was a really quick scene, the orchestra did play Kamara Tanjiro no Uta, the song that was playing at the end of Hinokami, so that was also just beautiful, again paired with all of the visuals that they were showing of Tanjiro and his family on the big screens. They did a final recap of Mugen Train, which probably only lasted maybe like 3 to 5-ish minutes, which was the fastest recap of Mugen Train that I've ever seen. Of course, everything leading up until the final battle between Akaza and Rengoku, and then they had a promotional reel. Unfortunately, this was a promotional reel that everyone has probably already seen up until this time. There was nothing new as far as a trailer or any news. Again, this was just an orchestra-based performance that was kind of centered around Tanjiro's story as a whole, especially covering season 1. There was no new information like there was for so many other panels at Anime Expo. I feel like in years prior, we've always had something new for Demon Slayer, but it's okay that this year we fell a little bit short because the Infinity Castle trilogy is coming very soon. That is going to wrap up basically the Demon Slayer panel that was held at Anime Expo 2025, everything to know about it. If you have any more questions that I did not cover, please feel free to let me know in the comments. If you were there, I would love to hear your favorite part. Also know that I went to the My Hero Academia panel and there was a lot more juicy content in that panel as far as interview questions and final season news, so feel free to watch that video once I film, edit, and post that, which will be in just a few days. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time for some more fandom fun. Bye!